May I express my delight, privilege, personal pleasure and honour at serving under your chairmanship. I am grateful to the Honourable Member for Strangford, whose energy, knowledge and omnipresence we all admire and envy. And I congratulate him on securing this debate. It is my pleasure to respond on behalf of the government as the duty minister. I'm a poor substitute for the minister responsible, but I will do my best. And I want to make it clear that if I fail to answer any questions during the course of this debate, I will write to members to answer those questions if I miss any out, and a diligent team of Foreign Office officials will have noted every question and will ensure that I live up to that promise. Now, Sir Charles, I would like first to apologise to honourable members, and in particular my honourable friend for Basildon and Billericay, who has campaigned tirelessly on this issue, for the confusion around recent statements on Pathway 3 of this scheme. I completely acknowledge the strength of feeling about what has happened and which he expressed today, and it is right that the government is held to account, not least since, as the Honourable Lady made clear, we owe a debt of gratitude to those who have helped our country. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to correct today the misinformation that arose from earlier comments that have been made and provide clarity on this issue. I'm very grateful to the contributions from all honourable members here today, and as I said, I will respond as best I can. I say at the beginning that many of these questions are not susceptible to a yes and no answer, and I will try and explain why that is the case. Since April 2021, the UK government has brought almost 23,000 people to safety from Afghanistan. I completely agree with honourable and right honourable members who have spoken about the importance of the UK meeting its commitments to resettle the remaining eligible Afghans in the UK. This includes those who spoke during the recent Westminster Hall debate on British Council contractors, tabled by my honourable friend, the member for Basildon and Billericay. Now, on Pathway 3, our commitment remains to resettle up to 20,000 people under the Afghan Citizens Resettlement Scheme, or the ACRS for short. The scheme provides a safe and legal route for eligible people to come to the UK and rebuild their lives. Under the first year of the ACRS Pathway 3, we will resettle eligible Afghans and their eligible family members from three specific groups, as has been said, British Council contractors, Garda World contractors, and Chevening alumni. And under the first year of Pathway 3, we will resettle up to 1,500 eligible people. Now, I understand the desire to resettle all those eligible as quickly as possible. It is not merely lip service to say that this is what we are working towards, but there are challenges and limits to what the government can do, which means that, regretfully, we have not yet been able to relocate anyone to the UK under Pathway 3. There has been progress, including for increasing numbers who are now safely in a third country, in accommodation and receiving support, and being processed prior to onward movement to the UK. Now, following the Westminster Hall debate last week, I wish to set out 4 points in relation to the first year of Pathway 3. First of all, I deal with the numbers to be resettled. As I set out to the House on the 12th of December in the urgent question, the total number of British Council contractors, Garda World contractors and Chevening alumni already informed that they are eligible in principle for resettlement, subject to passing security checks, stands at nearly 200. Including their dependents, this accounts for over 750 of the 1,500 available places under the first year of Pathway 3. Of the over 750 individuals confirmed as eligible in principle, a sizable number have now passed initial security checks and are being advised on next steps, including on travel to a visa application centre. It is worth highlighting that individual cases progress at different speeds for different reasons. Honourable members may have seen Hansard corrections from last week's Westminster Hall debate on British Council contractors. These make clear that a considerable number of principals have been processed and informed and granted forward processing. None are yet in a position to travel to the UK. Now, I will give way in just one moment. Since then, we have heard accounts that some of those eligible in principle under Pathway 3 are feeling more at risk as a result of specific figures being quoted. And as a result, we are ensuring that we do not provide a running commentary on how many individuals are at each stage of the resettlement process. This could draw unnecessary attention to those preparing to leave. I will, yes.
Before my honourable friend intervenes, can I just remind the Minister to sit down at 2:58 to allow Mr Shannon 2 minutes at the end to wind up? Sorry.
Thank you, Sir Charles. Clarity is required here. Of the 200 British Council contractors that have initially been told that they are eligible under this scheme, ACRS Pathway 3, can the Minister answer some very straightforward questions? How many have been told that they can now proceed out of the country, if they can get out, into a third country? How many have been told that, and how many are still yet to hear from the government anything after they had made their initial application? Our understanding is it's roughly 47 being told to go, another 150 still in the dark.
So if my honourable friend will allow me, I will clarify most of these points, but if you will bear with me till I finish making sure I get these points correctly on the record. I'm sorry, of course, yes.
May I suggest that some of the delays, and I've just said I am employing an Afghan refugee from 2021, and I talk to him a lot. May I suggest that actually some of the criteria that the British government requires for security checks are simply not realistic. For example, the provision of a secure address. These people are moving around, they're hiding. A provision of a secure address is often not possible.
That point is well understood by the Foreign Office. Now, though of course the House will be pleased to hear that since last week, even more eligible individuals and their families from the cohorts are now being supported in a third country. Second, those awaiting the outcome of their expression of interest. I can assure members that we continue to work at pace to allocate remaining places, and we will notify individuals of the outcomes as quickly as we can. Thirdly, on the point that's been raised about quotas, the government notified Parliament in June last year that up to 1,500 eligible people will be referred for resettlement under the first year of Pathway 3. This includes dependents. Finally, on future cohorts, the ACRS, which the Home Office lead on as a whole, will welcome up to 20,000 people to the UK. After the first year of Pathway 3, the government will work with international partners and NGOs to welcome other groups of Afghans at risk. The government has not yet announced the composition or timings of additional cohorts, but will keep Parliament fully informed. Thank you.
Olivia Blake.
To clarify, if the 1,500 was people and then their dependents, or it was inclusive of the dependents? Okay, I think that will concern members.
The answer is that it is inclusive. I come now to the Foreign Office role, Pathway 3 expressions of interest process. The Foreign Office is responsible for administering referrals in the first year of ACRS Pathway 3. I'm just not going to give way for a moment, and then, of course, I will give way to my honourable friend. For 8 weeks last summer, we invited British Council contractors, Garda World contractors and Chevening alumni to express interest in resettlement under Pathway 3. The Foreign Office received over 11,400 expressions of interest when the online window was open between June and August last year. We are assessing them carefully against the relevant published eligibility criteria. We are working hard to ensure that everyone who expressed interest is provided with a decision as soon as practicable. It remains a priority for the government to honour the commitments we made to eligible at-risk people. We continue to work in close cooperation with the British Council, Garda World and Chevening colleagues to support and resettle eligible individuals. Now, I should say something about Home Office security checks. Honourable and right honourable members will appreciate that the government has a duty to protect the security of the UK and the safety of its citizens. It would be wrong to make a blanket offer of sanctuary to those who may have committed offences that would be crimes in the UK or who pose a threat to our national security, which is why everyone coming to the UK from Afghanistan is subject to rigorous security checks. and why any offer of a place on the ACRS is contingent on an individual satisfying those security checks. We are pleased that for many, these initial security checks have now been completed, which allows us to notify them of the outcome and provide advice on next steps. Now, my honourable friend will allow me just a little more further, and then I will give way. I turn now to the next steps for those who have passed initial security checks. A number, having passed initial security checks, have been able to secure passports and visas to travel to third countries outside Afghanistan. Some are waiting for visas or passports to be issued, and some have not yet applied for these. Members will appreciate that travelling from Afghanistan is challenging and takes time, particularly for those who are currently undocumented. Travelling throughout Afghanistan and across borders involves crossing multiple Taliban checkpoints, and people are often asked to provide documents to verify their identity. Those who attempt to travel without them may put themselves at risk, and the Taliban and countries surrounding Afghanistan require valid documents for travel across their borders. We are committed to working in step with the international community, including coordinating with like-minded partners and countries neighbouring Afghanistan on resettlement issues to support safe passage for eligible people and to allow them to cross their borders from Afghanistan on humanitarian grounds. The House will understand that I am unable to go into detail about the resettlement journey for obvious reasons. However, the government remains grateful to partner governments in the region for their continued support for our resettlement operations. Once in a third country, those eligible are offered accommodation and support paid for by the UK government through our development budget, whilst they continue to be processed for resettlement and undergo biometric visa checks. A number have been referred to the International Organisation for Migration, who provide the majority of third country support, including medical care, food and accommodation. I recently met with the head of the International Organisation for Migration, and I'm very grateful for their ongoing support.
I probably recognise, Mr Chairman, that the Minister would need probably an hour and a half alone to explain where we are. But can I ask a quick question? In relation to those people who were British contractors, when it comes to satisfying the British contractors, those who have applied through the scheme, when it comes to clearance, surely they already have that clearance, Mr Chairman. They must have had that clearance whenever they were working with the British contractors in Afghanistan. Otherwise, they would never got the job. Is that not right?
Well, there are different streams by which people arrive, and that is true of some of them, but not all of them. Now, I just want to come briefly to the support for eligible Afghans who have arrived in the UK. The government has also put support in place for eligible Afghans once they've arrived in the UK. As the House will be aware, the government has engaged extensively with local authorities and other partners to source suitable accommodation as soon as possible. We are committed to supporting people to settle, find jobs and rebuild their lives in the UK. Anyone resettled through the ACRS will receive indefinite leave to remain under existing rules. They will be able to apply for British citizenship after 5 years in the UK. I give way to my honourable friend.
I thank my right honourable friend for giving way, and I applaud him for trying to clarify the situation. But can I just bring it back to basics? I asked him a simple question about, or the government, about, as Hansard stands at the moment, 47 have been given the green light to leave the country. We're still talking about 150, security checks or not, of the 200 British Council contractors that have not been contacted at all. That is how Hansard stands, and I haven't heard the Minister correct that position. So could we have a clarity on that, please? And when it comes to the quota, is the 1,500 an upper limit on these three groups that we've been discussing, or is the Minister saying that in time there will be a further iteration so that there is, in effect, no limit with regards to these three groups? This is the sort of clarity we're lacking at the moment.
Minister, on its second point, I am unable to say that. Currently, the position is quite clear that 1,500 is the limit, and it includes dependents. So let me be very clear about that. Now, he asked me whether anyone given the green light to come to, has anyone been given the green light to come to the UK under this scheme, and what about the 47 contractors the Minister referenced last week. And perhaps it was best if I am very clear about the answer to that question. The total number of British Council contractors, Garda World contractors and Chevening alumni informed that they are eligible in principle for resettlement, subject to passing security checks, stands at nearly 200, including their dependents. This accounts for over 750 of the 1,500 available places on Pathway 3. Of these, a sizable number have passed initial security checks and are being advised on next steps, including, as I said earlier, on travel to visa application centres. Now, I know there is a... Can I just complete the point? Because I'm coming on to the precise numbers he's asked. I know there is a desire to give specific numbers and details of each cohort and their position throughout the process of settlement. This is a dynamic picture which changes daily. Individual cases can progress at different speeds for a number of different reasons. Given the sensitivity of the security checks element of the process, I am sure honourable members will understand why we have declined to give precise numbers of individuals. Importantly, we do not think it is helpful for those in country for us to give a running commentary on numbers which could draw attention to those preparing to cross the border. And I ask my honourable friend to reflect carefully on that point. I will. Yeah.
I will reflect carefully on the point, but I'm not even getting any assurances privately with regards to the numbers. I mean, it's very good quoting big numbers, but what we do know, and I apologise, I'm chair of the all-party group on the British Council, so I'll focus on this. We do know that there are 200 eligible contractors who are deemed very high risk or high risk of their lives, for whom the majority of which we've heard nothing. The figure that seemed to be on the record, and the Minister wasn't reticent in giving figures out last Wednesday, was there were 47 being given the green light, which suggests 150, security checks or not, haven't been told to actually proceed. Exactly. They're in the dark still. Now, can we, if not now, get some clarification on the...
We are marching towards 258.
I must ask my honourable friend to allow us to consider whether we can provide any further information. But I want to be absolutely clear and concise in what I have said tonight, that these are the reasons why we are not giving out further figures. I was going to say something about broader HMG support for Afghanistan, but I think I won't, Sir Charles. I think I will conclude. I just want to say to... yes, of course.
The Minister was very clear on the 1,500 cap, but he didn't offer a defence of that cap. We are talking about people who are now at risk because they, in essence, assisted the UK mission. Why should we be saying to people, sorry, not this year, we're full up? Why should there be a cap?
Well, there will always, Sir Charles, be arguments for and against figures. That is the settled position of the government, and I'm not in a position today to comment any further on that. Can I just say to the Honourable Lady from Sheffield Hallam, who asked me about refugee status, all those arriving in the UK under the Arab ACRS have the right to work and access education, healthcare and public funds. So I hope that that is helpful to her. In conclusion, the UK government remains committed to offering a safe and legal route to the UK for eligible British Council, Garda World and Chevening alumni affected by the appalling events in Afghanistan of August 2021. I acknowledge and understand the strength of feeling in the House about the speed of progress. The government remains acutely aware of the deteriorating situation in Afghanistan, and we are working with partners to try to influence the Taliban. We are also working at pace to deliver on our commitment to relocate eligible Afghans who supported the UK mission and our wider values and are at risk as a result. I look forward to the day we can confirm to the House that we have succeeded in repaying this debt of honour.
Thank you very much, Minister. Mr. Shannon, I shall give you a maximum of 2 minutes because that's what's allowed for.